a social gathering planned to deepen the camaraderie between companies. The new director, Michael Smith, said something unbelievable upon seeing me and my wife.
"We didn't prepare a seat for you guys. Subcontractor, please head back home."
Could you call the CEO right now?
My wife, Emily, retorted instantly, to which Michael gaped in astonishment.
There's no way I can call the busy CEO just for some subcontractors. We can find a replacement for you guys anytime."
So you're saying you can't call the CEO? Then we'll be leaving.
Emily said as she grabbed my arm and headed for the exit. That's when President Brown, a client, appeared on the scene. As he listened to the story, his complexion turned pale, and he eventually started to tremble. My name is Christopher Williams. I'm a 42-year-old man living with my beloved wife, Emily. I run a factory that manufactures mechanical parts, which originally belonged to my Phil, Alex. I met Emily during college. I've always loved machinery and studied mechanical engineering in college, with the hope of creating something new that would shape the future of society. However, reality wasn't so simple, and I faced many challenges in my experiments. Despite the repeated disappointments and setbacks, I kept on experimenting, thinking it might have been all in vain. It was during those times of facing difficulties over and over again and feeling utterly lost that Emily came to my side. Whenever she saw me struggling with an experiment, she would quickly solve the problem and tell me,
Christopher, you were almost there in solving the problem. The difference between you and me is whether you believe it can definitely be done.
She said with a smile, and I was completely charmed by her. There's a difference in the outcome between tackling something with the belief that it can be done and doing it while thinking it can't be done. Emily taught me that, and since then, I've never given up and continue to work hard until the very end. This resulted in developing a strong mentality that somehow I could make it work even without much basis or experience. This perseverance to believe that things will work out in the end has helped me overcome various challenges in life. Emily herself possessed this vitality. One day, she quietly said to me,
I have a dream.
"A dream?" I asked, unable to predict her answer. She nodded firmly.
To make my father's factory the #1 in the U.S. That's my dream.
Eventually, Emily and I spent our college years as good friends. After graduation, I got a job at a local machinery manufacturing plant. I was passionate about pursuing more precise and advanced technology, which resonated with my sentiments. Then, I reunited with Emily, my college classmate. And to my surprise, the factory was managed by her father. Trying my best to get accustomed to the job, the president, who was Emily's father and often visited the factory, approached me.
"You're the new guy, huh? I've heard you're very enthusiastic about your work."
"Thank you. I'm just happy to be working with machines every day." I passionately shared my passion for manufacturing with the president. I told him about my university specialization and the future potential of America's manufacturing industry. I now think it was quite presumptuous of a young person like me to speak so grandly. However, the president listened intently, without interrupting, and seemed genuinely interested.
"I'm glad to have a passionate young man like you join our company. How about you learn even more?"
Following that, the president began to personally teach me the finer points of the job. This is how I came to be directly mentored by the president.
Christopher, you don't have a girlfriend, do you?
No, I don't at the moment. One day, the president suddenly asked me, and the first thing that came to my mind was Emily's smile from our college days.
Then how about my daughter Emily? You're close in age, and she understands the factory work well.
Thus, our relationship, which I thought would remain just friendship, slowly progressed, and after about 2 years of dating, we got married. United by the goal of making her father's factory the best in the U.S., we have been leading a happy married life. Then, suddenly, my Alex fell. Fortunately, I was nearby, so I was able to call an ambulance immediately and have him taken to the hospital. Though he barely clung to life, Alex, who already had a heart condition, ended up significantly weakened.
I've caused you all a lot of worry, but I got to see my daughter in her bridal gown and found a successor for the factory. Honestly, I have no regrets.
He said, lying in his hospital bed, looking pale. But of course, that wasn't enough for us. Believing it was too early to be satisfied, Emily and I, along with everyone at the factory, worked hard to keep things going until Alex could return. As a result, he gradually recovered and was able to return to the factory after 3 months. However, even though he had recovered, there was no telling when he might fall again. At his urging, while he was still healthy, I formally took over and became the manager of the factory. I had been working there already and had learned how to manage from him, but I still faced many challenges at first. I must have looked pretty bad coming home because I worried Emily.
Are you okay? Are you pushing yourself too hard?
It's tough, but I want to meet your dad's expectations, and since I'm a young manager, I don't want to be underestimated, so I want to learn as much as I can now. Indeed, once the leadership transitioned from Alex to me, some spiteful clients seemed to test our limits. Still, thanks to Emily's support and Alex's trust, I've been able to keep pushing forward. 2 years flew by, and just as I was getting the hang of management, we found out Emily was pregnant. We named our son Lucas. Holding Lucas, Alex couldn't help but shed tears of joy. Seeing Alex, Emily, and our newborn Lucas together as 3 generations of our family brought a smile to my face too. Having my precious son further motivated me. Thanks to that, I've become even more dedicated to my work, finding my own way of doing things differently from Alex and overcoming various difficulties that came our way. About 10 years later, I was puzzled to hear that Miller, a manager at our main client, had been transferred. It was an odd time for a personnel change, and there had been no indication from Miller that this was coming. I became curious about what happened to Miller, so I inquired with another contact at our client, and it appears he was dismissed. I was shocked at the magnitude of the mistake he must have made, especially since the specific reasons were not disclosed. As a subcontractor, I'm out of the loop on the details, and all I can do is wait for the new director who will be taking over. I've heard that the new director, Michael Smith, is around my age. He graduated from a prestigious university, unlike me. Considering we're going to have a long-term relationship, I'm bracing myself for what's ahead. Though I'm saddened by Miller's departure, given how much he's helped us, my priority is to greet the new director. When I informed our client that I would come to greet the new director soon, I realized I also had to let Alex know.
So that's what happened. I'll check on it from my end. You focus on the factory.
he said with a complex expression I hadn't seen before. Things changed the next day. While I was giving instructions and making rounds in the factory as usual, a man appeared. I had no idea who he was, so I was puzzled until he walked straight up to me.
I'm Michael Smith, the new director. I've taken over this factory's account from the previous person.
You're Michael, then. I'm looking forward to working with you. Facing Michael, who confidently crosses his arms and looks down on me, I'll make sure to greet him politely. However, he stared at me rudely without responding.
I came all the way here, and you're not even going to offer a cup of coffee.
My apologies. I wasn't thoughtful enough. Hurrying to prepare coffee while enduring his cold gaze. From past experiences, I've learned it's best to just smile and play along with these types of people. They'll be satisfied and leave without causing any problems. As I handed him the coffee while smiling, he seemed to lighten up as expected. Leaning back contentedly, he sipped his coffee with a displeasing look in his eyes.
It seems you know your place.
However, Miller would always greet us with a warm smile, saying, "Thank you for your hard work." In contrast, Michael was just crossing his arms and looking around the factory. It felt like this wouldn't be easy, and just then, I started feeling uneasy.
How are you doing?
Emily came along with Lucas, stopping in her tracks. That's right. She mentioned she'd bring Lucas by today. As I remembered this, Michael unexpectedly exclaimed,
What? You're Emily.
Michael, is that you?
Both of them looked surprised to see each other, and I was just as shocked. It seemed they knew each other, but Michael continued, still looking stunned.
So, that child is your son. I figured since you're the factory owner's daughter, you'd have married some low-level worker.
Yes, I did. But what's that to you? Who I marry is none of your business, right?
Emily easily dodged the insult thrown by Michael. Then, she stood beside me, with Lucas.
This man is my husband. He's someone important who helps me uplift this factory.
Lucas innocently showed me his elementary school quiz, looking for praise. While I praised Lucas with a smile, I was taken aback by Michael's reaction. For a moment, it felt like he was glaring at me intently. However, he quickly reverted to a smug expression and began openly mocking Emily.
So, you married a bottom-rung worker for the sake of your family's factory. Regretting your life choices yet?
Michael looked down on both Emily and me. I was pretty irritated inside but managed to control my feelings, knowing that our elementary school-aged son, Lucas, was watching. At that moment, Emily smiled brightly.
I'm incredibly happy to be married to him.
Her smile dissolved my irritation, filling me with joy instead.
What a waste of time.
Michael said after observing our interaction, clicking his tongue and leaving the factory. What a terrible person.
Really, he's just as unpleasant to know now as he ever was.
Emily lightly explained that Michael was a high school classmate of hers. Seeing her grimace at the mention of him, I decided not to press further. Still, having such a troublesome person as our contact was distressing. However, I soon forgot about my complaints against Michael when we were informed of a major project underway. Our factory's products were to play a crucial role in it, so I focused all my energy there. Yet, just when things were getting busy, Michael contacted me again. Expecting it to be about the project's progress, I nervously picked up the phone, only to be baffled by his words.
What was with your attitude last time? I, the director, personally made the effort to visit, and I didn't expect such disrespectful treatment.
I deeply apologize for any inconvenience caused. I said, apologizing, but Michael just kept ranting.
Unlike subcontractor like you, I have a promising future. Remember, I could end our deal with just one word.
After saying his piece, he hung up. I was astounded he called just to say that. Then another call came in from a different employee. Apparently, to ensure the success of the large project, a social gathering will be organized for all involved companies. If it had not been for a hurried confirmation call from another employee, who saw Michael calling us without passing on critical information, I would have missed the gathering entirely. I thanked the employee profusely and confirmed my schedule. While I was free, the thought of meeting Michael at the event made me sigh. On the day of gathering, I arrived early just in case. Emily came with me, and we looked around for any familiar faces. The place was still sparse with early arrivals when suddenly, a familiar voice came from behind.
Why is a poor factory's bottom rung worker here?
It was Michael, who had spotted me and decided to start trouble immediately. I couldn't just ignore him. He looked at Emily and me, laughing mockingly.
What are you doing here? Don't you realize you're out of place? Today's gathering is for respectable company executives, not subcontractors like you.
His loud laughter drew the attention of others, making them look our way. I tried to escape the awkward situation by giving him a polite nod with a forced smile. I'm sorry, I'm going to greet some other people.
I'm not done talking yet.
I tried to get away from him, but he seemed determined not to let us go. As I was pondering what to do about this troublesome situation, he came closer, looking down on us with a chuckle.
You don't have a seat here. Subcontractor, please leave.
Then, could you call the CEO right now?
Emily retorted instantly, to which Michael's eyes widened in surprise.
There's no way I can call the busy CEO just for some subcontractors. There are plenty of others to replace you.
You can't call the CEO. Then we'll have to withdraw from the project.
Emily said, taking my arm and heading for the exit. Michael, looking smug as if he had succeeded in driving us away, showed no signs of trying to stop us. That's when it happened.
Christopher.
The one calling me with a puzzled look was Kevin Brown, the CEO of a client company. I stopped in my tracks and smiled to him. Kevin, you've arrived early.
I heard you would be here, so I thought I'd come to greet him and hear about his recent situation.
He said, probably referring to Alex. Alex and Kevin have had a relationship for over 30 years since the company was founded, but I had heard that since Alex fell and I took over as CEO, the opportunities for them to meet had decreased significantly.
Anyway, why are you leaving? The gathering is about to start.
Actually, while I doubted it would lead anywhere, I explained everything to Kevin. I'm just a subcontractor, and we don't have much of a personal relationship. I wouldn't be surprised if he laughed off what I said. But I hoped for the friendship that had lasted many years between him and Alex. As he listened to my story, his face turned pale, and he began to tremble.
I'm so sorry. This is entirely Michael's fault. I'll make sure he's punished in a way that satisfies you. So please, Don't leave.
His desperate attempt to keep me from leaving surprised not just us.
What are you saying to these subcontractors, sir? These people have no respect for client companies, just lowly, poor subcontractor.
What are you talking about? Haven't you read the documents for this project?
He thundered at Michael, who had approached us with a smug smile. It seemed Michael had not anticipated being reprimanded. Ignoring Michael, who stood with his mouth agape, Kevin clung to my hand.
I'll leave it up to you, Christopher, and take no responsibility. Please, participate in the project.
Then, I'll proceed as I see fit. I confirmed with Kevin, who nodded firmly.
What about the gathering then?
We'll be leaving for today. We need to rethink our approach to the project. Kevin looked down, disappointed.
I'm truly sorry about this.
He apologized deeply, and we returned a greeting before finally leaving the venue. As he saw us off, he handed me a small note. It contained the name and phone number of the former director, Miller. I thought about contacting this number as soon as I got home. Of course, I also had to report this incident to Alex. As we quickened our pace, the sound of Kevin sternly reprimanding Michael could be heard behind us. The next day, Michael stormed into my factory, his face red with anger.
Hey, bring out Christopher. Come out and explain what this is all about.
As soon as he entered the factory, Michael started shouting. After receiving a call, I headed straight to the reception room to face Michael, whose face was twitching with anger, his mouth clenched tightly.
What do you mean the project can't proceed without parts from your factory?
That was detailed in the documents provided beforehand. After reading those, Michael, you decided we were unnecessary and sent us away, didn't you? Surprised to hear me speak up for the first time, he fell silent. Seemingly fragile to just a bit of pushback, he had nothing to say after just one retort. If that's all you wanted to discuss, could you please leave? I said, pointing towards the exit, but he weakly shook his head.
Look, I heard from the president. Is it true you're not participating in the project? Our president and your former president were good friends, weren't they? Think it over.
After discussing with the former president, we decided to terminate the contract. Subcontractors like us are dime a dozen, right? Michael turned pale and started sweating profusely at my words. I knew why he was so panicked. Without our factory, the project couldn't proceed. This project was based on a product for which I hold a patent. Diverging from Alex's management approach to secure a patent was my strategy. In addition to running the factory daily, I've been developing prototypes for a product I began researching in university. With Emily's help, who I met at the same university, it took us 2 years to successfully develop the prototype. Our patented product significantly improved the factory's profits. And it led to this project. Without our product, the entire large-scale project would fall apart. Despite being a project participant, Michael was unaware of this crucial detail. If he had thoroughly read the documents, he would have understood our factory's importance, but he likely skimmed over them, dismissing us as just another subcontractor.
Don't you have any sense of responsibility? If this project fails, how will you make it right?
If that happens, I suppose I'll have to take responsibility. But no worries, we've already signed with another company. At my words, Michael gasped for breath and widened his eyes. I nearly burst into laughter at his expression. On the day of the gathering, I called the contact given by Kevin, which was Miller's number. Miller was starting a new company.
Actually, I'm receiving support from Kevin. Would you consider signing a contract with us?
Miller, who approached us with this proposal, detailed what happened when he resigned from his previous company. He attempted to complain to the upper management about harassment from Michael, but it seems his efforts were squashed by a faction favoring Michael among the top executives. Fearing he'd collapse under the pressure, Miller decided to resign. Upon submitting his resignation, Kevin approached him and suggested starting a new company as a subsidiary. Kevin was also fed up with the scheming of the vice president's faction. Their influence reached the core of the company, making it difficult for even the president to implement changes. Thus, the strategy was to gradually move talented employees, centered around the capable Miller, to the subsidiary. In light of these events, my factory, which produces essential products, was introduced to Miller's company, leading to a contract between us. Michael, upon hearing this, turned red with anger.
Don't mess around. If this project falls through, we'll face losses in the millions. Just sign back with us already.
But you were the one who initially deemed us unnecessary, right? We've already signed with a new company and are participating in their project, so it's impossible to contract with you now. I firmly declined Michael's repeated pleas. After about 30 minutes of back and forth, he finally realized it was futile and slumped in defeat. He trudged out of the factory, and we went back to our usual work. Months later, Kevin visited our factory. Since then, he has been working on restructuring the company to counter the faction supporting Michael.
I've caused you so much trouble this time. How can I possibly apologize?
After deeply apologizing to me, Kevin starts to discuss what will happen. Michael, who had shown promise when he joined the company, started acting recklessly after gaining the vice president's favor. He caused trouble in various departments before our conflict. No one dared to confront him due to his strong connections. As a result, he developed a misguided confidence, believing he could do anything because of his perceived importance. This led him to unnecessarily involve us, subcontractors he disliked, in trouble at the social gathering. Even when reprimanded by the president, he showed no signs of remorse.
I just did my job the way I saw fit. There are plenty of factories to go around, so it doesn't matter how they're treated.
He brazenly claimed, angering the usually calm Kevin and resulting in his transfer to another department.
I hate to make excuses, but Michael was appointed during my long-term overseas business trip. I only saw the performance numbers and failed to grasp his character, which led to this inconvenience.
Kevin apologized again. Later, we heard from an acquaintance that Michael resigned. Although he avoided dismissal after the vice president faced significant accountability and resigned, the leak of this incident had him facing cold stares from everyone in the company. Moreover, although not fired, he was moved to a department responsible for compiling a company's history, a job with neither challenge nor fulfillment. Frustrated, he eventually resigned on his own.
He had a terrible personality, but he was supposed to be smart.
Emily mused, acknowledging that he had indeed been competent. Despite everything, he had achieved enough to be recognized by Kevin as a director on paper. But ultimately, Becoming a director led Michael to his downfall. Maybe it was because of me that he went off the rails. I wondered. Back in high school, Michael, who was Emily's classmate, had harbored feelings for her. However, his attempts to get her attention by belittling the factory her father ran only pushed her further away.
Never talk to me again. I don't even want you near me.
She had declared, cutting him off completely after graduation. Despite this, once we became adults, Michael, learning that his company was dealing with Emily's factory and buoyed by his position as a director, attempted to reach out. However, by then, she was already married to me with a child in elementary school, completely dashing his hopes.
To think he'd harass you out of jealousy. It's just so childish and unbearable. I'm sorry for causing you trouble.
Emily apologized, though I wasn't angry at all. In fact, her decisive handling of the situation made me feel more confident that together, we could overcome anything the factory faced. After his resignation, Michael struggled to find new employment due to the scandal becoming widespread, leading to repeated rejections. After draining his savings and leaving his home, he fell into poverty, living day to day on borrowed money. While juggling various odd jobs, apologizing to younger supervisors wounded his pride, which led to a cycle of short-lived employment. Now, whenever he gets a bit of cash, he drowns himself in cheap alcohol, facing complaints from neighbors in his low-cost apartment. It seems he might soon be lost to the streets. On the other hand, I am still working with my factory colleagues as an owner. The relationship with a new company led by Miller is going well, filled with eager transactions that leave me satisfied. Kevin's company is gradually returning to a healthy state. I'm looking forward to resuming our deals, a sentiment Alex shares. Moreover, now that Lucas has grown and become more independent as a middle schooler, Emily has found time to assist with the factory work. I'm determined to keep pushing hard for my family and this important factory. Even if new challenges arise, I'm confident we can overcome them together. One day, we will realize Emily's dream of making this factory the best in the U.S. With this hope, I step into the factory today, believing that if we tackle our tasks with the conviction that we can do it, success will surely follow.